Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And it's time for us boomers to call out Gen Z. Actually, we're going to read this article on the New York Post. The article says, Gen Z job seekers are making their parents call and plead to hire them. Boss says they are not prepared.
So this is kind of what we were talking about before. And again, I must stress, we're not talking about all Gen Z people, because I know like our kids, for example, are not this way. You know,
yeah.
I'm sure there are plenty that aren't. But enough of them are doing this kind of stuff that it's become a talking point in the business industry.
Yeah,
so.
we actually talked about in a previous video that Gen Z was getting fired, that they were a lot of, I don't think it's a generational thing. I think it's a college thing, but, they tend to
I think it's a generational thing, too, because these people were like completely, they call them iPad babies. Mm. They completely grew up on this stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, some, not all. I mean, there are some people that have done really well for themselves at a young age, but a lot of people...
Gen Alpha. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Oh, yeah, but whatever. It's
they grew up with the internet always being there.
Yes.
Social media always being there, or most of their life being there and stuff. So they're easy. One thing I've noticed is it's really easy to get these people to buy stuff. It's not that I'm
easily influenced.
I think because I know TikTok and stuff, they really target them, and I know Hollywood was trying to target them, but unsuccessfully, because they will actually spend money on things.
Yeah, so let's talk about this, and again, not to attack Gen Z, but there is
our kids are Gen Z, so we're not attacking Gen Z.
Right, there is an ongoing discussion about how prepared these people are for the real world. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. Guys, get woohoo if you do.
Woohoo!
Go out to clownfish-.com, check out The Reef. We've got exclusive podcasts and content, and there's more on the way. And you guys also can check out our merchandise, and you get a merch discount if you are a member of The Reef. First month is 50% off. All right. Let's talk about this. The New York Post we've got several articles just in the last couple of weeks. Like, they do daily, Gen Z can't do this, Gen Z can't do that.
Yeah, Gen X. But now, they never acknowledged Gen X the other time, and now it's lazy Gen X parenting, except for you might have some Gen X be parents of these kids, but most of them I think are going to be late Gen X and early millennial. I think millennial will be in there too.
Yeah. Okay. So this is New York Post again. More like Gen Lazy.
Sorry.
The young adult workforce has once again been chided for entitlement as a UK plumbing boss accuses the so-called laziest generation of having their parents call prospective employers to land them a gig. That actually, I think that is true to some degree.
But you've seen that with millennial too.
I've seen it with millennials. This is anecdotal. I think I talked about it in another video. I used to be a newspaper editor, believe it or not, once upon a year. And I was actually a young managing editor at one paper. And they brought me in to clean house. And I did what I was told by my bosses. I cleaned house. And one of the writers I got rid of was very entitled. And she would have been a millennial. And I got rid of her because nobody read her stuff, and she was difficult and unpleasant, and she wanted way too much money. So like a week goes by, she's not in any of the papers, and I get a phone call from a woman, and she's like, "I really like that writer that you fired. How could you do that? She was great. I buy the paper just."
Fired her.
Well, yeah, I haven't seen her story. No, it was like I haven't seen her stories in like a week, and she was, that's the reason I subscribed to the paper, and I'm not going to subscribe to your paper anymore, and you really need to bring her back, whatever. And then we checked the caller ID, and it was her mom. Her mom called to chew me out. That's okay. I'm like, no, now she's like super extra duper fired, right?
Right.
The toileteer Dan. Is that what they're actually called? Is that they have like a toileteer union or something? He dropped the alleged revelation while calling into the James O'Brien show on the radio station LBC. I have a plumbing company. There are 8 or 9 of us working here. The 29-year-old caller told O'Brien 52. The application. This is a 29-year-old, right?
So late millennial.
Yeah. The applications we get from the younger generation, it's never themselves applying. It's always their parents. They're not out looking to do a job. They don't want to be a plumber or an apprentice. They're not prepared to do what they need to do to get qualified. Now, I can't really say that because, again, 29 was that was actually older than I was when I was running that newspaper. But I'm a boomer, so whatever. I just
get shit done. We're Gen Xers. We get shit done.
I just had jobs handed to me because I was a boomer.
But they're going to blame Gen X for this because it's their kids. Maybe the reason it's Gen X's fault is because we were out there just like actually working and getting shit done. And so, we had, our kids didn't maybe get stay-at-home parents and things that other people did.
My parents were very much like missing. Like my grandparents helped raise me, but like everybody in my family worked, and they worked really long hours. And I was very much a latchkey kid. Like, so I pretty much learned how to do everything myself by the time I was 14, 15. I was pretty much self-sufficient. I mean, geez, they even left me home alone for a couple of weeks. They went to California for when I was in Pennsylvania. They went to California for Thanksgiving one year, and they actually just left me there by myself for a couple of weeks. They figured I had it. Just get
you told me about that.
Just get yourself to school.
My parents were busy too, but they would have done that.
I mean, it's anyway. Interestingly, a recent survey by Intelligent found that an increasing number of Zoomer job seekers are bringing their moms and dads to job interviews. I would immediately disqualify you. I mean, I'm not hiring your mom.
Yeah, I mean, it's like they're dropping you off or something, that's different. But like they're actually bringing you into the interview or that's a little weird.
If acting as a vocational liaison wasn't ludicrous enough, Dan claimed that many parents even put their slothful progeny, I love this writer, slothful progeny, up to applying in the first place, noting they're not out looking to do a job. They don't want to be a plumber or an apprentice. Basically, mom and dad, they're politely telling them, get an effing job. Get a job, get out of the house. When we do meet these kids, they don't want to be there. They're just being told to be there. As a result, the idea of hiring a young plumber can feel like a pipe dream. We can't find sub 20-year-olds to join. In America, you won't find sub 20-year-olds to do anything.
He said that there are some that are good and hardworking, but they're the exception to the rule. That's what I'm saying. I know not every Gen Z person's like this, but apparently it's enough that it's become a common assumption.
So they're blaming, this is funny, they're blaming YouTube and TikTok. They said,
I blame a lot of things on YouTube and TikTok.
Why are so many Zoomers using their mothers and fathers as employment wing people? The Brit blames their addiction to YouTube and TikTok.
I think TikTok more so, but yeah.
Which instills them with the sense that they don't need to go to work. A recent study found that a staggering 57% of Gen Z aspire to be influencers.
This, I believe, I have seen several different surveys with kids over the last, several years, and often that's the number one job they want to be in. And I'm like, you guys have no idea what it entails, especially what's in TikTok, because unless you're getting brand deals or something, you're not getting paid very much.
Yeah, TikTok especially. TikTok, it does not pay shit. It really doesn't.
And even if you get stuff to review, you don't understand the hoops you have to jump through. You don't just they don't understand, it's not like I just get it, I just make a little video and that's it. It's not like that.
Yeah, they said that, 57%. This is why, I'm going to go on a side tangent here. I think this is why we get so many people that are obviously Gen Z or later millennials.
Angry cartoon stands
that hate us. And I'll tell you why. Because we're doing what they want to do and they don't think it's fair.
A lot of times people who hate us the most have YouTube channels. But that's
99.99999% of the time. Almost seriously, it's a joke with us. We're the very first thing I look for is oh, who's this person? Do they have a YouTube channel? Are they trying to be a cartoon commentator or something, commentator? Yeah, that's exactly it. And they're mad that we did it and they didn't. And that's as simple as that. But this person here is 100% right. This is, what is her name?
Hannah Williams.
Hannah Williams, 27-year-old who runs Salary Transparent Street. She has 1.4 million followers. She makes $125,000 a year, but she said
you go above that, what she's saying about too. She said it's a constant Monday through Sunday.
Yeah.
From the time you wake up till you go to bed, the internet's on and so are you.
Yes.
Yes.
She said she told the outlet her day starts at 8 with editing, planning, and responding to emails, and takes calls with clients between noon and 3. Despite a break between 4 and 6, she's back to work for the remainder of the evening. Until midnight.
It's a lot of work. It really is. I'm not complaining about it. I love what we do, and I love that we're lucky enough to do it. But the idea that it's just so easy is funny to me because it's anything but.
Yeah, it's not that easy. And this is just actually one thing that we do. We actually do other stuff too.
Yeah, if we were just doing one thing, it might be easier, but we do a lot of things, so it's very tiring.
And
Anyway.
it's not consistent, and it's very dicey. It's a very dicey way to make a living because trends change. I mean, there are people that were on top of the world on YouTube and TikTok, a couple of years ago, and now nobody watches them.
But back to the point of this.
Back
It's
to the
like they
point.
said that their 20-somethings have since clapped back at those accusing them of laziness, claiming their generation has a great work ethic, but likes to prioritize a work-life balance. Now, look, I'm all for work-life balance. I don't know what that is, but I'm for the idea. However, I've seen a lot of this mentality that I should phone it in when I'm there. I should be given all kinds of perks, all kinds of breaks, and everything else. And then, I have to commute, and I have to go like an hour in, do my job, come an hour home, and then when I get home, I only have a couple hours to myself. Yeah, welcome to fucking reality. I don't know what to tell you. That's what it is for everyone.
Yeah, I know. It's like, geez, can you imagine if you had a family and you had a mortgage, whatever, and you would have to go to work for 8 hours is the minimum, right? Because you got to figure your commute time and your lunch. And so you're talking, you're probably at work or at least out of the house 10 to 12 hours a day. Mm-hmm. And then you've got all your duties as a parent or whatever, a good citizen or whatever else you have to do when you get home. And then your weekends are usually eaten up with like yard work and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, I hate to be that guy, but like, that's kind of, then they're like, why can't we afford houses? Why can't we have a house?
Well, to be fair, I mean, houses are getting ridiculous.
Well, they are.
I mean,
but,
there's a lot of people across any generation that have similar issues with finances and houses. And
but
stuff.
I'm also like, when you have a home, you have a property, there's a lot of maintenance that goes into that. You don't have me time. Like,
well, a lot of people don't buy, they rent just because they don't want to have to deal with all that. But why are they blaming Gen X for Gen Z? Just out of curiosity.
This is another
lazy parenting.
Lazy. So apparently New York Post is getting a lot of traffic off these anti-Gen Z articles. So, I mean, take it for what you will, because I went to find that original article. We saw it yesterday, and there's like dozens of these articles are being cranked out.
This is the most Gen Z thing ever. Okay. Gen Z gets a lot of flack for being snowflakes, and they are. But many of them can't cope with life. Any speech or idea they don't like is offensive. Criticism is insulting, and they can't hold down a job. But it's not their fault. Okay, that is the most Gen Z thing ever. Yes, all those things are their fault. I blame the internet. Because you know what? Gen X, they're not getting that insulting. You can't deal with you being insulting or speech. That you didn't get that from Gen X. Gen X is like, fuck you. No, you didn't get that from Gen X. It's how you've been raised and educated. Okay, maybe schools, but no, I mean, please. The biggest complaints that young workers are unprepared, unwilling to complete a full workday, wanted to start late, and could not communicate properly. Again, that's not Gen X's fault.
Yeah, because actually, like I said, Gen X, we were latchkey kids, right? I mean, we were for the most part, and I've been working since I was 15 years old. And before, I mean, I've been working officially since I was 15 years old. And before that, I used to work in my grandpa's auto body shop, and I used to sand cars and pull dents, and I was like 10, 12. I'd get paid like $5, and I'd go buy a G.I. Joe figure. That was what I did. And I did that on weekends, and I was always looking for ways to make money. But yeah.
This whole article is how to blame somebody else for their own problems. It doesn't happen in a vacuum. Mental health is far more care and awareness than it did a few decades ago, which I think is good. The good thing to deal with mental health more. However, needing a mental health day or, digital detox and stuff are not good enough reasons to not go to work. Kids are no longer taught resilience and are stripped of all responsibility. Okay, to some extent, yes, if you don't have your kids do anything, that is on you. But you can't blame this whole laziness and lack of being able to take any criticism and anything else on Gen X.
Yeah, all the fun equipment has been ripped out of playgrounds. They aren't trusted to leave on their bikes in the morning with friends and return when the sun goes down. The difference is, I think in our case, because I did do that. That literally was, I'd get on my bike and I'd go hang out with friends. We'd go play baseball. We'd go down the woods. We'd go like God knows where. Nobody knew where we were. And we'd just hopefully come back at the end of the day. But we weren't aware of all the creeps out there either. Right? I mean,
yeah, it's worse now with especially the last couple years with the, an element that is more dangerous than what it was before. There's about you're tracked via phone and you're enslaved to a digital world instead of a real one, and they can't interact verbally or face to face. Well, that is true. That I blame on the pandemic, but I also blame phones and stuff. But I know what colleges are facing a huge epidemic where kids just don't communicate. Like, I hear such stories from my son and other people, how they try to talk to the kids. They just sit there and look at them blankly like, I don't know what to do. Like, what am I supposed, they're on their phone. Give me your Snapchat. On their doors of their dorm rooms, they have their Snapchat, Instagram handles.
Oh my God.
Instead of their names.
I was
I'm
like,
not
are you
kidding.
Freaking kidding me? I'm like, I'm sitting here like, that's so freaking stupid and so, like, I don't broadcast.
Very narcissistic, though.
It is. I don't broadcast. Like, we're actually doing the social media thing. We're actually getting paid for it. I don't tell anybody what we do.
Most people around where we live don't know anything about it.
No.
But it's funny to me, too. Like, he said there was parties. And you could go to parties, but you had to have so many followers on different social media platforms or whatever.
Oh my God, yeah.
To be able to go to the party. And it's like, are you effing kidding me now?
It's like, hey, kid, can I get invited to one of your school parties? Because I got enough followers to.
Yeah, right.
But I don't want to. That's the thing. These people. This is why, again, I think we get a lot of these people that get so ass mad about us or other YouTubers. Is to them that's everything, and to us it's like, it's Tuesday. And if this ends, we go do something else.
They're talking about the participation trophies. And that was more of a millennial thing. Gen X mocks that. It's like, are you kidding me right now? And sometimes there's winners and losers. You have to learn how to deal with failure. And I agree. I think that the best way to succeed is to fail. And you often fail a lot before you succeed. And if they don't know how to do that, they're like not even willing to try because they're afraid they might fail. And it's like, well, then you're never going to get anywhere.
I think the best thing you can do is kind of speed run your failures. Just like get all the bad ideas out of your system as early as possible, so you'll learn what to do correctly. It's kind of like a mouse training itself to get through a maze. Like, you have to figure out where all the dead ends are first to get to the cheese. That sounds so cliche. I know it does, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I think a lot of people are so afraid to fail that they don't fail. It's like, you are going to fail. And then what happens is you get people that maybe succeed young and then they don't know how to fail later in life and they freak out.
Well, yeah. And we have like these young millennials and Gen Zs that, cannot take any criticism, needs safe spaces for everything. And while, yeah, it's somewhat responsibility of the parents, somewhat, I think it's a lot of them because they're perpetually online.
Yeah.
They don't know. They're indoctrinated into believing bullshit. They don't have to think for themselves. One thing that I'm really happy about is our kids. We're in cyber school for years because we had to travel a lot. So we took them and put them in cyber school. And because of it, they've had to think for themselves. No, we're not talking homeschool. It's cyber school. It's actually a school. You have to think for yourself. You have to, budget your time. You have to plan. If you don't, then you fail, and that is on you. So when like our son went to college, there wasn't a big learning curve for him because it was just the same thing he did all the time. Just, now it's applied and for everyone that's going. And it's just, this whole thing it's not our fault. Come on. Then if you're aware of it, change it.
Yeah.
So fucking ridiculous.
Well, let's look at some of these. Let's look at some of the
comments.
Yeah, there are 42 comments. All right.
So that'd be good.
Arnold T. Pants Esquire. We're just not going to be accustomed to the workforce that's been around for the last 50 years, i.e. we want promotions not based on performance. Yes. We want to work 4 days a week from home. We want to clock out even though we're not paid hourly. We want unlimited mental health days, which means we take a day off without notice when we feel like it, and we reserve the right to complain about our employer on social media if we're ever criticized for any reason whatsoever. Ironically, the same 50-year-old workforce that housed, fed, and educated you, good luck with your kids, Gen Z.
Yes.
They're not having kids.
Well,
a lot of them.
No, they said Gen Z actually want to have kids.
Oh, okay.
Like it was the millennials who didn't have kids. Now Gen Z is starting to actually want to have kids.
Not surprising. This is Snick Hip. Not surprising, in fact. Expected. I've had the displeasure of working with quite a few kids coming out of universities, and they don't even practice the basics
anymore. They don't
anymore.
even taught the basics. Okay, to be fair, they don't even taught the basics. Our son's in business school, and the stuff they have him doing is absolute bullshit. I'm like, what am I paying for? I'm like, you can learn more on the job than this absolute joke of, and this is one of the higher rated ones.
Oh, I told him that. I said, you're going to get your degree from this school, but you're not actually going to learn anything until you're on the job. and you
And
accumulate
he's at least
experience.
ahead because he's done stuff for us, so he
Yeah.
has experience working on the job. I can't imagine what it's like for other kids that are going to school for him for business, like with him for business, and they don't have the experience that he has. They're going to be completely fucked. And yeah, so their parents spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to prepare them for that one job out of school, and they can't even do that.
Yeah.
Well, that one, I'm going to blame the schools too, because I don't know what we're paying for. It's way different now than what it was when we were younger. And like, he's telling me stories and he's even appalled. He's like, this is ridiculous. They have somebody teaching that's like a master's student teaching one of his classes, doesn't even know how to teach anything. And it basically sits there and reads verbatim off of the slides he has. And he's just like reading that verbatim in monotone voice and having them do, read articles and present and do group projects. He doesn't even know what he's doing. They're learning absolutely nothing.
It's idiocracy. We've got morons teaching unmotivated people how to be morons, right? It's morons.
But you need that paper, for jobs.
Well, no, because they want you to have that paper. Because
Yeah, tell that story.
Oh, I'm gonna tell. God, I feel
gonna
like
be a
such an
long
old
video,
man.
guys.
Get off my lawn, right? No, actually, when I was in my early 20s, I had a guy that I was doing work with tell me that he only hired people with degrees, not because they knew what they were doing, but because they were in debt. He hired them because they were in debt. And he's like, I know they're going to work for me for a while because they're in debt. They have student loans they have to pay, and I want them hungry. And he said, if somebody doesn't have any debt, they're debt free, they could just walk away from the job. I'm like, wow, that's interesting. He said, no, he said, that's normal. It's like, they know, he said, we know as employers, as people who have been doing this for a while, we know that colleges are not giving us fully formed, fully prepared.
And that was then.
People. This is like back in the 90s.
That was then.
Yeah. And he's like, it's just like, you got two classes of people. You basically got the people that are the ones who want to go out and start and run the businesses. And then you got the people that want to be the underlings. And he said 9 times out of 10, you'll find that the people that run the business don't have the education that the people they hire do, but they have the gumption to, gosh, God, I am getting old. Gumption. That's an old man word. But he's entirely right. You look at, all the people that have started their own businesses, and you look at some of the wealthiest people in the world, most of them don't have traditional degrees. Or if they do, it's worthless, or they dropped out, or,
A lot of people switch like later on too.
Yeah.
I love this. I started working when I was 22 in IT. I'm about to turn 45. Only now am I earning the kind of money that I should have earned for many years by paying dues and having a stellar reputation in my field. Individuals in the age cohort behind mine have a startling lack of maturity, lack of common sense, and some are so oblivious regarding their surroundings that they embarrass themselves multiple times a day without realizing it. Well, that just makes me feel bad for them. It is as though solipsism has swallowed the entire group.
Solipsism.
That's a weird word, but okay.
He just wanted to show that he did go to college.
It just goes on and on. Yeah, right? It goes on and on. And it's like...
No one told him when to run. That's exactly it. This is like, look, we see this more often than not. And we see it especially in the creative fields. It's a lot of young people. They're like, where's my job? I got my SCAD degree. Where's my job? I don't want to work retail. I don't want to be an in-betweener. I don't want to be a grunt. I don't want to do anything outside of my preferred field because that's what I went to school for.
Well, I'll get this one. I avoid hiring a person who's been out of school less than 5 years. I also look at what school in which they attained their diploma. And if you have pronouns in your resume, forget doing an interview. My job is to get things completed on deadline.
Yes.
I simply do not hire a person or persons who I think that is going to impede getting projects done on time. In other words, persons who are going to have feeling, cause drama, and delay a project, and leave them in the world of academia.
That's true, and this is part of the larger conversations going on right now. Like, we've been doing videos on DEI and how it's ending, and really, I think it comes down to experience and age, and a lot of these community managers, social media managers, PR people, they're fresh out of college, and they do incalculable damage to the companies that hire them because they don't have the experience, life skills, decorum to put out fires without throwing more kerosene on it. They deal with things like they think everything's just like the internet. And you see it all the time. Like, a company could be just kind of mind their own business, and then their social media manager comes along and says something stupid on Twitter. And next thing you know, they're losing hundreds of millions of dollars in sales because there's a boycott or something. It's like, it's a liability to hire people that don't have. Again, it's not necessarily a generational thing, but it's an age and experience thing. And you hire people that don't have the experience to behave like adults in the workplace. you're playing with fire.
Just wait till Gen Alpha comes up there,
God.
because they're actually so much worse than Gen Z, if that's even possible. Like, schools are having trouble because these kids can't read. They don't want to read. They're like, the teachers can't even control them at all because they're basically, I don't want to. So it's going to get so much worse.
Yeah. They're like, what? They're not going to work because they don't want to work full time. This person's like, this is Truck Robinson. Prioritizing a work-life balance is an understandable goal, but it arrogantly assumes that previous generations didn't do that and simply loved work more than using free time for recreation, travel, and family. It doesn't make sense upon inspection. Previous generations had tougher, shorter lives in terms of health, and a lower standard of living, and the desire to improve upon both required a very strong work ethic and taking advantage of fewer opportunities. But just to go back to what I was saying, this guy right here, what's the end game? If Gen Z weren't lazy, entitled, and openly hostile to their own companies on social media, the employers would be snapping them up. They are causing the majority of damage in the PR. I think what happens is employers who maybe aren't that internet savvy hire these people being like, oh, they know more about TikTok than I do, so let's hire them and let's let them speak for a multi-billion-dollar company that's been around for decades. Oh my God, now there are boycotts. Now there's this, now there's that. And you can't fire them because then they're going to screech and, have a shit fit meltdown on social media.
Yeah, and I think too, this isn't just Gen Z. I think this is older millennials or younger millennials as well. But you said you can't gaslight a million employers who have already put the kibosh on Gen Z hiring because of their own Gen Z employment fiascos. And that's the issue. Again, not all Gen Zs are like this, but it's been enough of a trend that everyone's getting impacted equally because of the behavior of a lot of people, apparently. It's not even the minority, it's the majority, sadly. And that's why you get these, I'm going to be the cheap vibe officer. I can't do my job, but I bring positivity. And it's like, okay, no.
Yeah, so
you're just annoying.
People think, like I'm mean. I'm like, I'm not mean. I'm just blunt, but I'm like, I'm normal. Like if you've worked any corporate job, like you're going to run into guys like me or 10 times worse, more likely 10 times worse. Right. But I've actually made people cry just by asking them to do their job. Like what the fuck bizarro world are we living in?
Who'd you make cry?
I made one of the writers cry one time. I was getting all
It's
pissy.
funny to me because you're not usually mean. So it's just like,
no, I was just like,
not,
hey.
But you're also kind of oblivious. You don't really read social cues well sometimes.
I look, if my priority is to get shit done, it's like I don't really care if it makes you feel good or not. Like you need to get shit done, because if you can't get shit done, I'll find somebody else that can get shit done. And that's not being mean. That's just like, that's why you're here. Not here to spread positivity. I'm not just giving you money because I feel like giving you money. It's like I'm giving you money for a service. Your service is you make my job easier, right? And if you don't, you get gone. Sorry, that's the way it works. We're gonna wrap this up. Let's wrap this up.
Yeah, I could have wrapped up a while ago.
Okay, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. We'll talk later.
Bye.
Join the reef. Go to clownfish-.com. That's clownfish-.com. You will get exclusive access to podcasts and videos and comic strips and more, as well as merch discounts. Check it out. If you were a member, you could get this t-shirt, this dismal t-shirt on our website. You'd get a 10% discount on that. You can also join in the community on clownfish-.com. Thank you so much for the support.